They stand like sentinels, tall, narrow, solemn. For centuries, smokestacks rose above every industrial skyline. They marked where work happened and where the air got thick. Now, many of them are quiet. The fires have gone out, the bricks are weathered, and the smoke is long gone. But what were they really for? Why were they so tall? And what's actually coming out of them today? To understand a smokestack, you have to start with the air itself. When you burn fuel, wood, coal, gas, it creates hot gases. Hot air is lighter than cold air, so it rises. That rising motion pulls cooler air in behind it like a natural draft. Engineers call it the stack effect, and it's basically nature's way of helping fires breathe. The taller the stack, the stronger the pull. A short chimney might let smoke drift lazily out. A 200-foot stack, it can draw it out with serious force, feeding the fire below and venting the exhaust high into the atmosphere. So when factories started burning fuel around the clock, the solution wasn't more fans or machines, it was height. But this idea didn't come out of nowhere. It started at home. Centuries before factories, people burned wood in open hearths. Early houses had holes in the roof for smoke to escape. Not very efficient. By the Middle Ages, masons began building narrow, vertical flues, the first chimneys, which used that same rising heat to pull smoke upward and out. By the mid-1600s, something clicked. Metallurgists realized that a chimney could do more than vent fumes. It could actually improve a fire. A taller shaft meant a stronger draft, and a stronger draft meant a hotter, cleaner burn. Those first industrial chimneys were built into the stone walls of reverberatory furnaces, large chambers that reflected heat back onto metal, allowing coal, rather than wood, to fuel the early metallurgical revolution. These weren't freestanding towers yet, more like built-in flues running through the furnace itself. But they set the stage for a coal-based industry that powered the first steps of the Industrial Revolution. Over time, these flue-gas stacks, as they'd later be called, grew taller and more independent as engineers chased better combustion and cleaner draft. By the early 1700s, as Thomas Newcomen's steam engines appeared, the chimney became a fixture of every engine house, venting the boilers that drove those heavy iron pistons. And when James Watt improved the design with his double-powered engines a few decades later, chimneys grew taller and more ornate. Brick towers with patterned masonry and decorative caps rising above mill towns everywhere. From that point on, the smokestack wasn't just part of a furnace, it was part of the skyline. By the 1800s, smoke meant prosperity. Every new smokestack was a badge of progress, proof that your city had industry, jobs, and power. Where there's muck, there's brass, people said in northern England, meaning money follows the filth. But the air eventually grew heavy. Coal smoke didn't just vanish, it lingered. It coated windows, rooftops, and lungs. In places like Manchester and Birmingham, laundry hung out to dry came back much darker than it started. In Pittsburgh, a light-colored shirt could turn gray before lunch. Ash fell like dirty snow. Streetlights came on at noon. Children walked to school under skies the color of iron. It wasn't just inconvenience, it was chemistry. Sulfur dioxide and soot mixed with fog and moisture to make acidic haze that ate paint, corroded stone, and burned throats. Cities learned to live with it. Factory owners bragged that you could taste the success in the air. But the price was hiding in hospital records, rising cases of asthma, bronchitis, and heart disease. Yet still, the stacks kept climbing higher, chasing cleaner air that never came. By the 1940s, the bargain between progress and pollution was starting to crumble. In Pittsburgh, office workers used desk lamps at noon. Residents described the smell as burnt eggs and machinery. And for decades, city leaders just called it the price of prosperity. But public patience eventually ran out. Business owners wanted clean storefronts. Parents wanted healthy kids. Doctors warned of a public health crisis. And the steel mills, the economic lifeblood of the city, wanted nothing to change. When Pittsburgh's mayor David L. Lawrence proposed a sweeping smoke control ordinance in 1946, industry groups pushed back hard. They argued it would kill jobs and stifle growth. Even some unions worried it would slow production. But Lawrence, backed by citizens, reformers, and a surprising coalition of business leaders tired of the grime, pushed it through. The law required furnaces to burn cleaner fuels. It banned visible black smoke and forced major industries to modernize their combustion systems. It didn't happen overnight, but for the first time, a city officially declared that dirty air wasn't progress, it was failure. And within a few years, the results were visible. The smoky city was finally letting in some sunlight. Then, across the Atlantic, came a grim reminder of why it mattered. In 1952, a cold snap trapped London under a lid of its own exhaust. People burned extra coal for heat, and a weather inversion sealed the fumes close to the ground. For 5 long days, the city disappeared in a yellow-brown fog. Buses stopped, theaters closed. By the time the smog cleared, more than 12,000 people had died. The disaster spurred the United Kingdom's Clean Air Acts of 1956 and 1968, which introduced smokeless fuels and tighter industrial standards. The U.S. followed 2 decades later with the Clean Air Act of 1970, giving the Environmental Protection Agency the power to regulate emissions nationwide. Together, these reforms marked the true end of the age of smoke. Cities learned that taller stacks couldn't fix the problem. They only spread it wider. Real progress wasn't about how far the smoke traveled, but what was left in it. Today's smokestacks, or flue-gas stacks as engineers call them, still rise high, but what comes out of them has changed dramatically. The same principle that once powered 17th century furnaces now drives some of the most closely monitored exhaust systems on Earth. Where early stacks relied on height alone, modern ones rely on chemistry, physics, and constant data. Those big white clouds you see drifting above power plants, they're mostly water vapor, the same steam that once turned turbines below. Modern pollution control begins long before the exhaust ever reaches the stack. Factories now treat air like a final product, something to be refined before release. Coal plants, for instance, use electrostatic precipitators, vast metal chambers where particles are charged and drawn to opposite plates, pulling soot and ash out of the flow like a magnet catching dust. What once billowed out as smoke now falls quietly into collection bins. Then there are scrubbers, which spray a mist of limestone slurry through the exhaust. The sulfur dioxide reacts with the calcium carbonate, forming gypsum, the same material used in drywall. Pollution literally becomes construction material. At gas-fired plants, low NOx burners and catalytic converters break down nitrogen oxides before they can form smog. Some waste-to-energy facilities even run fumes through layers of filters and activated carbon to trap mercury and dioxins. In many systems, the air leaving the stack is actually cleaner than the air that entered the plant from the outside. And all of it is watched in real time. Every modern flue-gas stack carries continuous emissions monitors, sensors that measure temperature, flow rate, and chemical composition second by second. Readings stream to control rooms and regulatory databases. If something drifts even slightly out of range, alarms go off. It's a far cry from the days when inspectors judged compliance by the color of the smoke. Modern plants don't even rely on natural draft anymore. Large fans and blowers move air in and out of combustion chambers with precision, keeping the burn steady no matter the weather. Height still matters for dispersion, but airflow is now a science of control rather than guesswork. Some power stations even vent their treated gases through cooling towers, the same kind of enormous curved towers you often see at nuclear plants. Others build hybrid towers lined with corrosion-resistant steel to handle the moist, purified gases. And those occasional flames you see at night, that's not pollution, it's prevention. They're called flares. When a refinery or chemical plant has to release excess gas during maintenance or a sudden pressure spike, the safest option is to burn it off. That controlled flame converts volatile compounds like methane or hydrogen sulfide into less harmful gases before they can escape. It may look dramatic, but it's a safety valve, literally turning invisible danger into visible light. Even the stacks themselves have evolved. Old versions were brick or reinforced concrete, heavy, heat-soaked, and prone to cracking. Today's are steel-lined, fiber-reinforced, and often grouped into multi-flue shells that vent several generators through one outer tower. Lighter, stronger, and more efficient. They're designed as much for aerodynamics and maintenance as for symbolism. And if you're wondering how tall they can go today, that's not left to chance anymore. Environmental engineers model how exhaust spread through the atmosphere and cap the height under what's known as good engineering practice. Even the sky has regulations now. So while the tall stacks remain, their role is flipped. They're no longer monuments to what we burn, they're instruments proving how carefully we manage it. A few centuries ago, a taller stack meant more smoke. Now it means less of it. As factories closed and power plants modernized, the skyline began to change. The fires went out, and one by one, the smokestacks followed. Some came down with the mills that built them, their demolition marking the true end of an era. For nearby towns, it could feel like losing a landmark or even a heartbeat. For generations, those towers had served as North Stars, visible from every street. They told you where home was, or at least where work used to be. But not every stack met that fate. Plenty were left standing, stripped of purpose, but too iconic to destroy. You'll find them now rising behind condos, beside river trails, in the courtyards of tech startups and breweries. Developers keep them as architectural anchors, reminders that progress once meant smoke and sweat. In some cities, old stacks have become protected landmarks. Pittsburgh's Carey furnaces, Chicago's Finkel steel, and countless smaller sites preserve them as monuments to the workers who built the modern age. There's a strange poetry in that. These were once exhaust pipes, built to hide our waste, and now they stand as art pieces and observation towers. Some even house lights or cell antennas, quietly serving the digital age that replaced them. And yet, for all their new polish, they still carry a kind of reverence. They remind us that clean air isn't new. It's what we began with. Industry took it away, and ingenuity brought it back. Every smokestack that still stands tells that story. How progress once darkened the air, and how progress again in time helped restore it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this stroll through history, give us a like and subscribe for more curiosity-driven videos every other week.